30 years ago, the concept of sophisticating movement was relatively unheard of. There were a small collection of professionals in the industry who were fighting to expand the concept of human movement potential. Generally, it was accepted that the human was capable of moving within a certain set series of ranges, and the goal of exercise was to become strong in those ranges and in those exercises in particular. That created a series of problems because ultimately training can't transfer, it can't help improve an activity unless it becomes closer and closer to the target range of motion without competing with it. How do you strengthen, let's say, a sports skill without just weighting the skill? Adding weight to a skill that you're repeating will only create a new skill that competes with the sports skill. So sport-specific training developed out of this concept of how do we safely improve the ability to take exercise and transfer it into a physical activity. That led to a series of ideas of how to take a movement, a generalized movement, a general strength movement, and improve its range of motion. Moving closer and closer to the sports skill without competing with it. We're going to sophisticate the strength. We're going to sophisticate the endurance so that it becomes more applicable. Ultimately, that also leads to a series of movements to demonstrate human movement potential. Where am I? What can I perform right now? How coordinated is my body and how does it move through all 6 degrees of freedom? Those are questions that you have to ask of yourself periodically to test how well have you adapted your training? How well have you transferred, not to a sport, but to becoming a better human mover? That was 30 years ago. In recent years, that concept has been so well embraced that, because I'm old, I now see the impact of the opposite. The pendulum is swung and movement is done for movement's sake. The greater the sophistication, the better. If I can do something that is a trick or a stunt, I will gain more attention. The problem is that just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can twist a joint beyond a normally functioning range doesn't mean you should. Ligaments will stretch, they'll retain that new deformed length, and they'll become loose. Muscles will become tight in order to try and compensate, so you end up with tight muscles and loose joints. You still can move in sophisticated ways, but in ways that will inevitably rupture and endanger your long-term survivability. It will also reduce the ability of you to perform well in sports and physical activities. Contrarily, what we actually need are loose muscles and tight joints. That's the real goal of movement sophistication. How can we move a general strength into a sophisticated range and then allow the movement, allow the muscle to regain its resting length? So we also have to honor the opposite. When we discuss movement sophistication, we also have to honor simple strength. How can I take this 1 degree of freedom, improve its strength and stability so that the joints can retain their stabilization and the muscles can contract and recruit sufficiently to move that weight against gravity with good structural alignment, and then restart the process again. Because if we get stuck in overly sophisticated, or should I say complicated movement, we'll create new problems. So that spectrum of moving from simple strength to movement sophistication is going to change over the course of your life, over the course of your job, how you adapt occupationally, and over your recreational activities. Why are you training? What is the purpose of your exercise? What fun and creative things do you want to do as a result of being generally fit? The goal is to not be sufficiently distracted and sucked into one pole or the other. I've seen both poles be concentrated on across my lifetime in the industry. The fixation on simple strength And now, the more recent fixation on movement over sophistication, if I can use that term. Honor both poles, be cognizant of what your goal is, what you want to do with your physical life, and train appropriately so that you can move between that spectrum to improve your own human potential.